Meet Stu Ungar, the poker prodigy who conquered the casino world with a mind sharper than a card shark's teeth, then lost it all faster than a bad beat on the river. This isn't your typical gambling fairy tale. The skinny kid from New York dominated the felt like nobody before him, winning 3 World Series of Poker championships when most legends were lucky to win one. But here's the kicker. The same brilliant mind that could read opponents like open books couldn't read his own self-destruction. From $1 million wins to dying broke in a $48 motel room, it's the ultimate Vegas cautionary tale. Las Vegas, 1998. A maid knocks on the door of room 6 at the Oasis Motel. Not exactly the Bellagio. No answer. She enters to find a gaunt, sickly man lying motionless in his wallet. $800 cash. This wasn't just any down-on-his-luck gambler. This was Stu Ungar, aka the Kid, the man who had won and lost more money at cards than most people will see in 10 lifetimes. 3-time World Series of Poker champion, genius, legend, and in the end, just another sad Vegas story. The crazy thing? Stu never set out to be a poker player. His first love was gin rummy, a game he absolutely demolished by age 14. Growing up in Manhattan's Lower East Side, young Stewie was the son of a bar owner and small-time loan shark. Not exactly Disneyland, but one hell of a classroom for a kid with a photographic memory and a gift for cards. By 10, he was beating adults. By 14, he was winning more money than his teachers made. School? Who needs it when you're pulling in hundreds of dollars a day playing cards? Stu dropped out at 15, and the New York underground gambling scene became his real education. But here's what happens when you're too good. People stop playing with you. By his early 20s, Stu had developed such a reputation in gin rummy that nobody would touch him. Literally, he'd walk into a card room and people would walk out. Game over. So in 1977, Stu did what countless dreamers, schemers, and desperate souls have done for decades. He headed to Las Vegas, the place where money changes hands faster than cards. Picture a skinny Jewish kid from New York who looks about 14 years old, walks into Dunes Casino with a bankroll and unshakable confidence. Within a week, he'd won over $100,000 playing gin. Within a month, he'd made so much noise that, once again, nobody would play him. Funny thing about Vegas, though, there's always another game, and the biggest game in town was poker. In 1980, Stu entered the World Series of Poker main event, the championship.
Ace 3-5, different suits, John's first act, and here he goes again, right away.
Professional poker players laughed. Who was this kid? They weren't laughing when he won the whole damn thing. At 27, he became the youngest world champion in history. Buy-in, $10,000. Prize, $365,000. But Stu wasn't playing for the money, he was playing for recognition. And then, just to prove it wasn't a fluke, he won again the very next year. Back-to-back championships, something nobody had ever done. The money poured in faster than Stu could spend it. His days of poverty were over. Custom suits, a new Corvette every year, $15,000 worth of watches, tipping cocktail waitresses $1,000 for bringing coffee, high roller suites comped by casinos eager to keep him playing. Stu didn't just beat the casino, he became the attraction. People would crowd around just to watch him play, to witness the uncanny way he'd stare down opponents and call out their exact cards. His poker strategy was unlike anything Vegas had seen. Where most pros played a calculated, conservative game, Stu was relentlessly aggressive. He didn't wait for good cards, he created opportunities, forcing opponents into impossible decisions. His reads were supernatural. A change in breathing, a slight twitch, the way someone stacked their chips. Stu saw everything, processed it instantly, and exploited it ruthlessly. Add his photographic memory, which helped him track cards with computer-like precision, and you had the perfect card-playing machine. However, the thing about Vegas is, it doesn't just offer gambling, it offers everything that goes with it. The drinks, the women, the parties, and the drugs, especially the drugs. Stu discovered cocaine around 1982. Like everything else in his life, he didn't do it halfway. Cocaine made him feel invincible. He could play for days without sleep, his already brilliant mind racing even faster. But what looks like a superpower is actually a curse. The man who could calculate complex odds in seconds couldn't see that he was on a collision course with disaster. The casino was happy to help him self-destruct. They comped his room, his food, his drinks, whatever kept him at the tables, and Stu obliged by betting increasingly insane amounts. Not just on poker, but on everything. Sports, horses, dice, anything with odds. Here's the brutal truth about gambling. Poker rewards skill. Most other games reward the house, and Stu was dumping his poker winnings into games that were slowly but surely bleeding him dry. By the late 80s, the casinos that once rolled out red carpets started avoiding Stu. Not because he was winning too much, but because he was a liability, a walking disaster. The cocaine had ravaged his nose, his health, his mind. Somewhere along the way, he'd gotten married, had a daughter, built a family he rarely saw. Everything came second to the cards and the drugs. When the money dried up, so did the friends. The 90s were a blur of brief comebacks and crushing relapses. He'd borrow money, win a tournament, then lose everything within days. His reputation went from the kid to the mess. Casinos banned him. Friends avoided him. Then, in 1997, something remarkable happened. 16 years after his last championship, looking like death warmed over, Stu convinced a friend to stake him the $10,000 entry fee for the World Series. No one gave him a chance. He barely had clothes on his back, much less the mental stamina for tournament poker. Then he won, again, his third World Championship, tying him with poker legend Johnny Moss for the most main event victories ever. The prize, $1 million. For a moment, it looked like the greatest comeback in gambling history. Stu promised it would be different this time. He'd invest the money, stay clean, rebuild his life. Hurry, 6 months later, the $1 million was gone, every cent. Back to drugs, back to sports betting, back to the same destructive patterns that had defined his life. On November 22, 1998, a maid at the Oasis Motel found Stu Ungar dead at age 45. Heart